Hey, what's going on? This is Tony Taylor. Welcome to Leaders Lead Podcast. I'm super excited with this podcast. What we're doing is we're sitting down and we're talking to some amazing leaders across the country. We're learning cool things about them. We're learning where did they get their leadership style from? How did they adapt that leadership style? What are they changing? What are some things that they need to work on? I want you to tune in to listen to Leaders Lead Podcast. Every single week, we're going to have new content for you. We're streaming on all the major platforms, so look out for Leaders Lead Podcast. Hey, what is going on? I hope everybody is having an amazing day. I am super excited. How many times can I say super in one episode? I'm super excited. I'm sitting down and I'm having a conversation with Erika Warfield on Leaders Lead the Podcast. This is my first episode in this podcast. I'm super excited. Not just because it's the first podcast, but I'm excited because I'm sharing the virtual stage with Erika Warfield. I was scrolling through LinkedIn one day and I just got captivated with Erika's content. Erika is on fire. We got to talking and I'm like, oh man, I'm trying to figure out, I want to have this conversation with you. I think you're amazing. I'm seeing some amazing stuff in there. I got the leadership podcast. I got the other Tony Taylor Inspires podcast. What are you thinking? I'm thinking leadership. And she's like, I'm thinking leadership too. Right. So that's how we're rolled. Right. We're all about leadership. And that's why we're here on Leaders Lead the Podcast. So Miss Erika, how are you doing today?
I am good. If you saw me looking down and just smiling, I was trying to get the link from this live podcast into our post to let everybody know we're live.
Hey, that's you leading. I love it.
Yeah.
That's you leading. That is you leading.
That is me trying hard to multitask and not lose it.
Yeah.
I am doing very well. And I am super excited to be a part of this inaugural podcast. So thank you for having me on. The first time I saw you, speaking of origins, was in Derek Mildred's Global Influencer Summit. And you had such an on-fire passion for everything that you were talking about with Derek. And that it lit a fire and it sparked a song in my heart, not to be too cheesy, but some people talk the talk and it was obvious you walk it. And it was just, I was like, bowled over when you reached out and said, we need to have a chat.
Is that how I wrote it? That sounds like somebody's in trouble. No, I love doing Derek's Influencer Summit. And I know that a lot of people were thinking that I was going to talk about strategies on how to gain followers, right? And I just looked at it as, how can I show people how to connect? How can I talk about connecting, right? How can I talk about connecting? I know that's one of your favorite words too, because I think we follow, we have the same mentor in John Maxwell. Because I know when you and I were talking, you start quoting some of his stuff, and I'm like, wait, that's my favorite quote right there. And I think I think that's my favorite quote. But that's one thing that I think about. When I'm on social media, I think about, how can I connect with people? And as far as connecting, what is connecting? I feel like people need to know who you are, right? They need to know who you are. They need to know that they can trust you. I know who you are. I know I can trust you. I love you. I think that you are on fire. I think that you are amazing. But I want to ask you a different question. On most leadership podcasts, they'll say, who are you? And then, they'll start rattling out and they'll say, well, I'm so-and-so this, I'm the vice president, CEO of this. I mean, you are the CEO, right? You are the CEO. You are the person that's in charge. But what I want to ask you to kick this thing off, and then we'll get to some of the comments because it looked like we got some comments coming in. But who is Erika?
I think first and foremost, I am a passionate follower of Christ. So to God be all the glory. I was just looking at your last post of when you found the Lord at 18, and I got the tingles because I remember when that happened for me. So anything that I think that happens in my business, at least for me, it's not about me. It's not about what it is that I do necessarily, except that the gifts that have been given to me, or if I'm led to read certain materials of major thought leaders. Outside of that, if I had to give my 1 minute elevator pitch, I would say I get more recurring revenue for B2B C-suite executives and founders and solopreneurs by shortening their sales cycles out of their sales teams. So I do that using what I call the forgotten trifecta of strategic growth. I can get into that more later on.
That's the secret, right? That's the secret.
It's the secret sauce. It really is. But you really can source B2B C-suites for your own business and get the decision makers. And that's how you shorten the sales cycle. So that's just kind of what I do. But it's not necessarily who I am. So that was a loaded question you asked.
I know it was. They're always loaded. They are always loaded. Let's see. We're gonna hit some comments in here. Hello, Erika Warfield from Jordan, Mendoza. What's going on, Jordan?
Mendoza. And now I'm going to see if I can see the comments. Oh, there they are.
I can see them kind of. Sometimes I don't get the Facebook ones. Got some cool shades.
Yes.
We got my brother Haram. Yep.
Hello.
More to come.
I don't know if I've ever met. Is it Haram or Hiram?
Yeah. Haram.
Haram. Well, it's very nice to meet you.
Correct me if I messed that up, Haram. I know he'll let me know. I know he'll let me know if I screwed that up in the comments. That is my brother. So leadership, right? On the subject of leadership, do you consider yourself to be a leader? That's another loaded question.
Yes, it is. I consider myself, the long and short of it, I consider myself to be a steward.
Ooh.
I think there are a lot of people that need to be careful with the word leader. I was explaining this to somebody earlier today. A leader, a servant leader. There are some people who will call themselves leaders, but really what they are managers.
Oh.
Because a leader.
Wait. There's a difference?
I know, right? There's a difference, and I'm going to throw some Maxwell out there. Johnny Maxwell.
There's some people that are looking at you right now, like they're probably looking at you like you just invented fire. I wish I had that bombs drop because that was really powerful. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, write this down, everybody, in the comments. Say an amen. Give a heck yes if you know that leaders are sometimes just managers. So a leader, can actually change the direction of a ship. A manager can only keep the ship going in the same direction by steering, right? And that's the difference between a leader and a manager. So to answer your question, how do I see myself? I see myself as a steward and as a servant leader. And I think what we were talking about a little bit in my background, back in the day, I sort of had this experience with 9/11 where I had literally, just moved. I had left my law firm job in Washington, D.C., where the Pentagon had been struck. And so this was maybe a month before 9/11, and I had moved to Chicago, another very large city. Right. During 9/11, everybody started evacuating because nobody knew if Hancock or Sears was going to go down. And it was about that time that I had also, when I had moved out there for a job offer, and I thought I was going to be starting, they said, we decided not to do anything with this, so you can go back to Washington, D.C. You can sue us if you want, but we'll win.
Wow, they said it just like that.
They said it just like that. It was cold. Wow. It was cold. Talk about no leadership.
Yeah.
And so there I was stuck in Chicago.
They were managing, right?
Yeah, they were managing. I was stuck in Chicago. I didn't know a soul. And that at that time, this would have been like 2000. Yeah, it was 9/11. It was 2001. I started investigating, and I ended up with this wonderful company called Mary Kay Inc. And that is the very first time I got a solid understanding of leadership. Was what that company practiced in terms of servant leadership.
Yeah.
And stewardship and praising people to success. And that was something I wasn't seeing in my law firm. My law firm was run by a CEO who had been ex-military. So for him, leadership was very much top-down triangle. Whereas in servant leadership and being a steward, you view leadership as an inverted triangle. And you, the leader at the bottom, and your job is to grow people with the hopes of one day they will surpass you.
Ooh. Music to my ears.
Keeping them down. And so when I was with Mary Kay, because of that leadership model, which is so threatening to other companies in some respects, they'll pay lip service to it, but you don't actually see them do it.
Right.
You don't see a CTO wanting the director of IT surpassing them.
You don't. No,
They're
you don't.
not going to give them the keys to do that. So within a year and a half, within 6 months, I was breaking records. And within a year and a half, I became top 2% internationally within the company, breaking sales records and leadership and recruiting. And it really, if it wasn't for Mary Kay, I don't think I would know a fraction of what I know about business now, as well as leadership.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I know when we kind of we're doing our discovery call, I sound like a lawyer, discovery call, but when we were getting to know a little bit about each other, you had mentioned Mary Kay and what working for the company had done to your leadership and kind of the things that you had learned from working with them. I was amazed. I would have never knew about their leadership. I would have never knew that they're actually leaders that lead. I look on their website and I'm looking at the CEO, I'm looking at vice presidents, and in their bios, they're talking about servant. They're talking about the people. It's not, well, I went to Harvard, I went here, or I went there. It's talking about the people. And I was just blown away. And one thing that you had mentioned before was you actually got leadership training, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. We did. We were all taught, it's a lot of what we hear on the LinkedIn platform. Here we are, 20, 40, 50 years later since the start of that company. Mm-hmm. And it's really about that you give to give to give to give to give. And when you give, others rise. I mean, that was the whole premise of the company. You're not going to get ahead unless you help as many people as possible get their dreams.
Yes. Yes.
Period. And my goal was, I hope you surpass me. I'm going to help you get there. And that was all of our goal if we were in leadership, was to help these women and men, and that was the other thing about being in Mary Kay when I was in Chicago. We were breaking a lot of stereotypes being in downtown Chicago. Anytime we came to Dallas for any kind of seminar or training, people within Mary Kay in other places in the country would look at us and go, that's the Chicago group, because the Chicago group.
You just had a different walk about you, right?
Yeah, I don't want to say swag. It's just my colleagues, we were all professional businesswomen. My colleagues were Harvard trained attorneys that were leaving their law firms. We had several attorneys, we had several former CEOs, we had several VPs, we had, you name it, we had it. And they were all leaving to start working with Mary Kay. Wow. And so we just approached everything differently. And our thought process, having been in a leadership environment that was this, and then being groomed for success in Mary Kay, where the leadership model was servant leadership, we all just flourished. So much so that I had men in my unit that I was training. And you'd be surprised. And some of them just wanted to focus on sales rather than recruitment. And they did very, very well because for some reason, women would listen to men about their own skincare, but not other women.
That's interesting. Wow. Are you serious? That's pretty
I'm
cool.
serious. I am totally serious.
That is really cool.
But I learned more in 6 weeks when I first started with Mary Kay than I did in my bachelor's and master's degrees. Now, granted, my bachelor's and master's are in music, but I had minors in business. I still learned more in 6 weeks with Mary Kay from a business and a leadership standpoint than I ever did in my academic career.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Yeah. Yeah. You took me down this deep, dark rabbit hole of Mary Kay that I'm just like, yeah, I would love to do some work with Mary Kay. They really believe in leadership. And one thing that you said that kind of struck me was how you got your job and everybody is kind of like scratching, like trying to get to the top. And I started thinking about when I got like my first like real job out of the military, and like people would be kind of like offended by my presence. They would think that, you know, I'm trying to take their job. And my first boss, he's just like, yeah, like we think that you're gunning for my position. And I couldn't believe it. And I'm just like, you damn right I'm gunning for your position. And not only am I gunning for your position, but the person that I just hired or the person that I'm getting ready to hire, right? I want them to be gunning for my position, because that's the way we're doing, not gunning for it to like shoot you down and kill it, but gunning for it to where, you know, you want to get promoted. And that's to me, and that's kind of like the way my brain works. If I'm in an organization, I want to thrive. And the way that we thrive is we give to other people. So I'm not going to sit in this seat. I'm not going to sit in this seat for forever and be a dinosaur while I got the young guns, you know, while I'm holding them down like underneath me. Let's get to some questions, because I can go on and on and on about that. So we got a question from Gary F. How does being a Christian on LinkedIn affect your business? Is it positive or negative? Oh, I love that question. Keep the questions rolling. I love that.
That is a good question. I have not noticed any ill effect. Now, if you were to go to my profile, I don't know if you'd be able to tell unless you were reading between the lines. You know, because I'm a steward, but I'm not like a pastor per se.
You're showing us instead of telling us.
Right.
I can see it all over you. I can tell that you're a believer. Yeah.
Thank you. So I haven't noticed affect me negatively at all. But at the same time, I've never heard anybody say, I'm signing with you because you're a believer. You know, when I'm responding to a post that may have a spiritual bent, and my response is appropriate, then I will discuss. Like in Tony's post where he was sharing, you know, his origin story of when he became a believer, then it's appropriate for me to share. But if it's a post about something that has nothing to do with that, I'm not necessarily going to go there to witness or evangelize, because I believe in attracting people to the message and not repelling people from the message.
I love that. I love that. You're dropping bombs, Erika. You know what's funny about that post? When you mentioned it, I was thinking to myself, I didn't share that I had got baptized in that post, but before I left and I went to boot camp, because that's what I was talking about. Before I left and I went to boot camp, I did get baptized. So it's funny that you say that, because there again, there's that, you know, showing instead of telling. I didn't say that. That's funny that you picked up on that. We got another question. Leadership means being a part of a team and doing what it takes in order to continue to grow and to succeed. Sometimes helping to fill the gaps where needed. Has there been a time in your career where, and I wasn't good at this at first when I first stepped into leadership, but where you needed to fill a gap that didn't necessarily like belong to you, kind of like in your area that you usually were responsible for?
Oh, definitely. Well, even when I first started in corporate, when I first made the pivot from academia, I left a PhD program and I went into the law firm. And I think it was maybe within a year and a half, I was already in middle management as a recruiting manager. And I was working really long hours. I remember giving a talk on servant leadership, which the rest of the administrative staff loved. Don't think the CEO loved it so much. But I can remember when we lost the benefits manager.
Managers hate seeing their blind spots. That's the difference between a manager and a leader.
Well, and I never specifically pointed him out, but I was just speaking on it as a concept. And, that was when it was first getting really, really big, at that point in time. But I can remember we lost our benefits manager. And because I got promoted, I had no HR assistant. And so I was literally doing 3 jobs.
Wow.
And you just, in that kind of environment, you do what you do. And I can remember having a really hard time walking my walk because I was literally not getting sleep. I was getting adrenal fatigue. I can remember people telling me you shouldn't be working so hard. Oh, but here, I need this by.
Of course. Of course. take some time off. You need to take some time off. Okay, I'll give you the day off, but I'm going to bombard you with emails the whole time. And that's all part of being a leader. I think is taking care of yourself. And I think a lot of leaders, even the best leaders, sometimes that's where they fall, is that, they're not taking care of their self. Mm-hmm. See, not only giving purpose, direction, and motivation, but training while you assist them in doing the tasks. I love them. Mm-hmm. Do you follow or do I sound off?
No, I think that's true. I think you can't just say verbally, this is how it's done. You show by example. And I think a lot of leaders also, if they don't understand servant leadership or they don't understand being a steward, I don't think they get the concept of the burden of comprehension is on the part of the speaker.
Ooh.
The burden of comprehension is not on the listener. It is on the speaker. And if I, the speaker, need to explain it 8 or 9 or 10 different ways and show it 8 or 9 or 10 different times before somebody understands that, then that is part of being a leader too.
Yeah.
Because there's all sorts of different filters that the listener could have.
Yeah. No, I love that. We're getting some good questions. We are getting some good questions.
We really are. I so appreciate you, Gary and Stephen and Robert and Jordan, if you're still with us.
Oh, yeah. I think your Christian faith goes hand in hand with ethics. I think anything you believe goes with how you move, with how you operate. What do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, somebody's belief system, depending on, Now, I'm sure that there are some very lovely atheists. I don't want to say because you don't have a faith-based system that you're not going to believe ethically, right? Mm. I think if you understand that you are a steward in any way, whatever that is, that you are going to behave in a way that is morally and ethically sound. And you are going to do what you can to give to others and to support, regardless of what your faith is. Yeah. And not having faith is still its own form of faith.
Ooh,
it's just not called that.
That's good.
Does that make sense?
No, that makes a lot of sense. I know we were talking a little bit about, the difference between a leader and a manager. Have you ever been in a situation to where you've worked for a manager and what was that like?
Yes. And, that goes back to, I'm glad we get to revisit this. Something that you were saying earlier about people being worried about, somebody gunning for their position or whatever. Some people think very, very strange thoughts. And it's typically those who are managers sitting in a position where their title is general manager or director or C-suite but the mindset is of a manager. And yes, I have. And I can say that some of my best experiences with leaders are with women. I
Okay.
can also say a couple of my worst experiences were with women.
Okay. Okay.
Because of that threatening aspect that comes with it. And so, yes, it is very difficult when you work with somebody like that. And so, going back to what you're saying, I was thinking of the 48 Laws of Power. The author escapes me, but any of you watching, I highly recommend that book. This gentleman wrote it because he was working in Hollywood as like a script writer. So he saw all the cloak and dagger that goes on with Hollywood, and he started analyzing like 3,000 years of history of what are the 48 laws of power. And how do courtiers act in the court? And how are we seeing that play out in corporate America? And how are we seeing that play out in Hollywood? And so these 48 laws, but one of them, and this goes along with John Maxwell, has to do with the real leader is not the person with the highest rank or title. The real leader is the person with influence.
Ooh.
Now, according to the 48 laws of power, you better not stick your head above the parapet if you're that person. You've got to play the game. If it's nothing else than knowing that the game exists and then operating ethically within the game.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And the author of that escapes me too. I'll probably find it later and put it in the comments. But
I know I'm going to look it up right now.
Yeah, actually, John Maxwell referenced that in the book. Everyone communicates, but few connects. I actually was listening to the audiobook this morning and heard that. So that's interesting that you brought that up. And I believe in that. I believe in that dearly.
Yeah. It was Robert Greene.
Robert Greene.
So in all of these things that we're talking about, Robert Greene wrote, with an E on the end, Robert Greene wrote the 48 Laws of Power. And the first person to talk about servant leadership, or at least articulate it as a principle. So Mary Kay started her business in 1963, right? And so she was already operating under stewardship. And that's an interesting story, which I'll get back to. But then Robert K. Greenleaf, who had worked with AT&T for 38 years, and he was one of the first to hire and promote women and non-white people into positions of executive leadership or management, non-menial positions. He was one of the first to do that. And so he was the first to articulate and write about the concept of servant leadership. And he actually has a center named after him, the Center for Servant Leadership. And that is Robert K. Greenleaf, not to be confused with Robert Greene.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Erika, you rock. That was a comment from Robert.
Oh, as a servant leader, do you think that you are always learning new ways of leading? I think. I love that. I think one becomes dead mentally and emotionally when they stop learning.
Yes.
Frankly.
Yes. I love that.
Anything. I hope I never get to the point where I think I have it all figured out, because I know I don't have it all figured out. Not in leadership, not in anything.
Yeah. No, that's good. And I'm glad that he asked that question, because I was going to ask you, as leaders, and that's one thing that I've strive to be is to be a good leader, a good follower, a good steward, a good father, a good husband, a good friend, a good podcaster. I've learned that I have to continue to learn. I can't go on the same information that I had yesterday into tomorrow. It just won't work. I have to pick up something in order to keep going. Otherwise, I'll be dead. I'll be dead mentally. Like they say, there's some people, they die at the age of 18, but they're buried at the age of 71. Right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to be like that. And so that's what I was going to ask you. What are you working on to make yourself a better person and a better leader? Because, it goes hand in hand.
Well, I do a lot of reading. I don't
Not reading like me. I read audiobooks. How about you?
I know. I actually read the hard with the paper and
Oh
and I'm
man,
the geek that's taking the ruler and the pencil.
I love that. I
Well,
love
and I
that.
have to, because I mean, even when I was back working on a PhD, I needed every one of my senses to be able to retain.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would forget it the next day. It didn't come naturally for me. So I do a lot of reading. I do believe in, going to church and in fellowship. I have not been able to do that a lot as of late. And especially during lockdown, it became, okay, now we've got to do this virtually.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of reading, whether that's business books, whether that's investment books, whether that's spiritual books, Bible, whether that's, what is one of the ones that I think is super fascinating right now is The Creature. I just lost it. I just forgot it. I bet it's on my shelf, and I'm going to sit here and find it because I want to know what it is. There it is. Okay. It's The Creature from Jekyll Island. And it is the whole history of the Federal Reserve System, which is not really a banking system. It is a cartel.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? And this
is fascinating.
Is nonfiction?
Oh, it's totally nonfiction. It literally goes over the history of how the Federal Reserve System was started in our country. And it was literally started by 6 men who held 1/4 of the world's wealth.
Wow.
And it was started to benefit them.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I mean, so if you look at, if you look at, every bank bailout, every large corporate bailout we've had, like in 2008, if you look at what's going on now, the Federal Reserve always says, or the large organization always says, we have to bail them out. They're too big to fail.
Right.
But who pays for that? The taxpayer pays for that.
We do. It's much like leadership. It's much like leadership when you have, or just like a company, right? When you have leaders at the top, right? Because they're in that non-everted pyramid that we talked about. You have leaders at the top, and they take.
Yes.
You got the employees, right? That they put at the bottom that have to do the work to make up for that deficit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, The Creature from Jekyll Island is a huge it's a massive tome too, but it's a huge eye-opener. That is the antithesis of stewardship and servant leadership, is what is going on with our Federal Reserve System.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I got a couple more questions because I know you are a busy lady. Again, this is really good. This is fun. I'm like learning. I've wrote some stuff down over here. This is some good stuff. And for the listeners, everything that we've talked about, the books that Erika's talked about, the books that I've brought up, I'll make sure that we leave them in the comment section so that you all can go and look it up. I'm writing them down so that I can start listening to them. I haven't got to where Erika's at. I love listening to audiobooks. So we'll make sure that we drop that stuff in the comments. I was going to ask you, being a leader, right? And I keep talking about that. It's kind of hard not to, because I keep seeing it flashing up there, right? Leadership, leaders lead. When was that moment where you realized, like, man, I think I got it. I think I got this. I've arrived to the point of where I know and I understand that in order to lead, I must serve.
Well, it started for me with the Mary Kay organization, where I really got to see this play out. So, and I really want to drive this home because it's going to be so easy for people to say, well, that worked because it was a company built by a woman for women in 1963. Mm-hmm. Right. If anybody knows the story of Mary Kay
Which
Ash,
is historic. Yeah.
Mary Kay Ash was a Fuller Brush salesperson who kept getting passed over for promotions, even though she was the top salesperson, she was the top leader, she was the top trainer, and she would have to train people, typically men, to then be promoted above her. And so she finally got fed up, and they were getting paid more than her. And she, instead of complaining about it, she just said, I'm going to start a company. Now, in 1963, this was going into this area of like second wave feminism, which is fine. That's done a lot too. But instead of complaining, she just said, I'm going to start up a company. I'm not going to burn my bra. I'm going to start up a company. And so that's what she did based on stewardship and servant leadership principles. And she inverted the leadership model. And from that, of course it resonated with women, and everybody thinks of Susie Homemaker, and it's okay to be Susie Homemaker and want to have a side hustle, but now we move into present day. And so anybody who's listening, I don't want you to think, well, that just resonates for women, because I took those same principles when I worked for BMW. And I remember when I first got there, I started out with one department reporting to me, and it was the service department. And it was all men, including the service director and the service manager. And thank God they supported me, and a couple of women. And unfortunately, the women thought they had to act like the men to get ahead. And so I said, well, let me look at what their leadership model is here. And it was this.
Right.
And so I went in and I inverted it. And that
Did you get any resistance when you started to change the culture?
Well, I showed up in my tea gloves and my vintage dresses, and I was going to be as feminine as possible. And I probably looked like a mini Mary Kay running around. And, I got made fun of it first, but then they started getting results, and they went from 9th in the region to 2nd in the region.
Wow.
And they were crushing it. They totally resonated with the servant leadership model. So much so that, they were like, Erika, would you want to do a meeting where we could come and just listen to you talk more on this? I was like, yeah, let's do this before, the shop opens. Let's do 6:15 every Thursday morning. These guys showed up 6:15 in the morning, and we started with John Maxwell, 21 Laws of Leadership. And when that was, and I showed them, this is how you're going to lead this. This is how you prepare. This is how we're going to cover the chapters. And when it was done, I said, who wants to do the next one? Hands went up, and these guys were like, let's cover Carl Sewell's, book on customer service. Let's cover Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Let's cover, these guys were eating it up.
And this was the service department.
This was the service department.
Wow.
But out of that, now I hadn't even been there a year. I think in 6 months, they had 4 more departments reporting to me after that.
Wow.
All because we were using a servant leadership model.
You were given. You were given.
Right. It was all about praising people to success and letting them know, yes, you can. And here's what you don't know about the incentive program. And here's how you work your numbers. And here's how I'm going to help you make an extra $2,000 a month. And all you got to do is be coachable.
Wow.
And these guys were like, I can make another $2,000 a month. Tell me how to do this. And so just praising them all to success. They did it though. That wasn't me. They did it. They believed. They were amazing.
Wow.
And they took that company from, their department from 9th to 2nd in the entire region, which was really, really hard to do when, you're the flagship store.
Wow.
They were amazing.
Wow. What do you attribute that to, like, in you, like it? And the reason that I'm asking like this is because, like, for me, my battle, see what I said? I said it was a battle because I had to fight myself in order to get that concept. So did you go into it with the wherewithal to serve, or was it something that was trained by Mary Kay?
It was both.
Okay.
I wouldn't have known to do it. This is bugging me. Sorry, guys. It's bugging me. They keep falling in my eyes.
What's bugging me? It's all good. What's bugging me is I got this green screen behind me, and it looks like my head is like green right there. You see that when I go like that? All right.
Oh, look at you. Actually, it looks like you have platinum blonde peach fuzz.
No, not today. Yeah. Yeah, leave it up to me to get us off a track. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it was both. But, going back to the BMW group, the 2 women were lovely. They were absolutely lovely. But they had been in a position where they almost had to act like men. And I think that's true in a lot of organizations for women. You know, there's this misconception that you have to subjugate your own femininity in order to get ahead, when it's your femininity that will actually be the differentiator.
So do you feel like
that can help others and help yourself, you know, get
yeah.
ahead.
Do you feel like they felt like they needed to do that? Like that they needed to kind of like not be their authentic self in order to be recognized, or in order to kind of fly under the radar? Or do you think that that's just how they were?
I think for a lot of us, including myself, because it took me a long time to get over that. In fact, it took being a part of Mary Kay to be over that, realizing here's this group of women that want me to succeed, right? Yeah. I think it's just a protective shell, honestly. Yeah. You know, I'm not saying this is for all women. I'm just saying this has been my opinion and my experience and what I've seen. And the best female leaders that I've seen are the ones that can embrace their femininity and embrace their authentic self and still be that leader. You know, we always say this on the platform, you know, we give to get. And my philosophy is no. We give to 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 give. And
not even thinking about getting.
And we don't even think about getting.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my philosophy.
No, I agree. I see it a lot. And I'm just like, where is that book that everybody is reading that's telling them we give to get? Like, get. Like, let's get that. As soon as we can get that out of our vocabulary, I think that's when we'll really be leading. Right. I'll never forget when I first stepped into my first leadership role. I was in the Marine Corps, and it was, I would say, Friday, I got promoted. I was the corporal. I was in charge of, you know, all of a sudden my friends, you know, I come to work the next week, I'm in charge of them. And I'm walking different. I'm talking different. You know, the stuff that I had complained about, you know, 3 weeks before, right? All of a sudden I'm like, this has to get done. They're like, why? I thought you didn't believe in that. I thought that you thought that this was stupid. And I'm just like, no, it has to be done because the boss, I was managing those people. And I'll never forget, as I'm barking orders in the bathroom, not helping these people, I'll never forget my boss. And I say my boss because not in the terms that because the bosses kind of get like a negative connotation, but he was in charge of me. One of the greatest leaders that I ever served with. He literally pulled me by my blouse, my shirt blouse. And he said, come here. And he said, I promoted you so that you can be you. Not so you could be him, not so you could be her, not so you can be them. I promoted you so that you can be you. If that's the case, take off the rank right now if you're going to act like everybody else. Go home. And I went home, and I did some soul searching. I did some serious soul searching, and I came to work and I just said, hey, you know what? These are the things that I don't like. You know, I didn't tell, you know, my troops that, you know, we're going to change and I'm going to do this. I just start showing them. I talked to my boss. I'm like, you know, I don't think that it's fair that, you know, our platoon should have to clean, you know, all the bathrooms and have to do all of this. Everything should be fair and equitable. Everything should be fair and equitable. And I started living that life, and I started just like really giving, like what we talked about. I started giving. I started like my time. I started studying with these Marines. I started spending time with their family. And then I look up about a year later, and we had an environment to where there were several of my Marines that would say, man, I would take a bullet for you. I really would take a bullet for you. And I would hear that. And I'm just like, wow. You mean I can't force you to, you know, you mean like my way of like forcing you to do this and to do that? Like, no, like they literally would take a bullet from me because I'm being my authentic self, because I'm loving on them. I'm being like who I am. Right. I'm being me. I'm giving them hugs. I'm, you know, sending them messages throughout the day. I'm thinking about you, buddy, thinking about your family. And to me, that's what a leader is. That's what a leader is. And that's what, like, where I feel like we get wrong a lot is that we're not doing that. We're not being our authentic self. And I'm glad that you brought that up. I'm glad that we're sharing this space together. This is amazing. We're getting some amazing comments, amazing feedback. It looked like my computer is going to start breaking because of all the comments that are coming in, which is really cool. I really appreciate everybody that's listening to this. It means so much to me. Everybody that's on LinkedIn, I'm not on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and where else are we streaming? YouTube. Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah. And YouTube, man. I really appreciate it. But I'm going to follow this up with another question. And I almost get like choked up whenever I think about this question because I'm
thinking this is deep. It's going.
No. Sorry. I just made it weird, right?
No, it's okay.
No, it's good. No, but what's your legacy? What's your legacy? When it's all said and done, when Erika is gone, there's no more Erika. Like, what do you like want them to say? Like, if I'm in charge of doing the eulogy, and I say, hey, I got a note from Erika. Erika wanted me to deliver you this message, and this is what she wants her legacy to be. This is what she lived for. This is what she strived for. This is what she believed, like deep down in her soul, deep down in her core.
Wow. Yeah. And everybody who is still with us, I just want you to know he didn't even give me a heads up as to this question.
I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah.
I think.
And the reason I do that, and while you collected your thoughts, and the reason that I do that, like I don't like have them like pre-planned. I look at it as when we're doing podcasts or when I'm on like doing interviews with other people, I look at it as conversations.
No, it's awesome. It's good that you didn't give me a heads up because now I'm like, ooh, I gotta look in the mirror right now in front of everyone.
Look, and it's all good because some people they say I want my legacy to be that I made $1 million before I was 40.
No.
Some people say that, that's not me, right? Some people say they want to make a difference in the world by what they're doing. I think the last person I asked that, he said, I want to make my legacy is that I love my family. Like, that's cool,
I think there's a lot to unpack there. I think part of the legacy, and Lord knows I have failed at this more times than I can count. But I think part of my legacy, I would want to be that she loved the Lord and her actions matched up with her words, which, man, I got a long way to go.
Hey.
I think the second would be not only that I would take a bullet for her, but she did take bullets for me. Because I have done that. I can think of an occasion where a really irate customer, she was verbally abusive and darn near physically abusive to one of my service advisors, and they didn't expect it. Everybody was stunned. This woman was like, she was off her meds. And I remember he was 250 pounds and 6 feet tall, and she was just berating him in front of the customers, in front of everybody. And I stood in between them.
Wow.
And she was just like this in my face, very close to touching me, at which point I would have said, that's assault.
Yeah.
But I jumped in between them to protect him because I didn't want her touching him. And then she started screaming at me. And before I could think of it, I had stood up taller and I had my fists clenched at my sides, ready.
I like that.
I was ready, And
leaders got to be ready to throw down. I love it.
And I remember telling some of my employees, I need you to call the police right now. Do not let her in her car. Her car will be a weapon. Get her out of here. Call the police. Tell them there's children in the area. And I didn't even realize it just happens. It's not like being in battle, but it just happens. And I remember the next day we had a meeting, And I told them, don't you ever be afraid to stand up for yourself. Don't you ever be afraid to tell your buddy, call the police right now.
Yeah.
Do not kowtow to this. That is unacceptable behavior. And they were all laughing and they were like, we thought you were going to punch her.
You say, I was going to knock her out.
I said, I wasn't going to do that because then I would have committed assault, but I was ready to defend myself.
Oh, leaders lead. That is the definition of leading. I was supposed to go. I'm like that friend that you talk to on the phone. That's like, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let you go. But then they got a whole bunch of more stuff that they want to keep jamming in there. but
in terms of legacy, I'll just tie that up in a pretty bow that, she did what she said she was going to do. Yeah. Her actions, her deeds matched up with her words and her faith. She attracted to the message. She didn't repel from the message, and that she would take a bullet for us. I would want that to be my legacy above all else, I think.
I love that. I think that's us. That's the process of us evolving. I love how you said, I think, because that's oh my God, that question is so powerful. And I think about it often. I think about it often. And that's often I ask myself that question to check everything else that I'm doing. Right. And that's why I started this podcast, is because I love people. Right. I love people. Just like I was telling you, I had like my other podcast. I talk to people that I'm interested in. And I was just thinking the thing that's affecting most people, like, what is that thing? And it's just like, it's leadership. I keep hearing leadership, leading at home, leading in your life, like on the inside, leading at work. Sometimes we're leaders while we're driving on the highway, like we're leaders, right? We're letting people over. And that's what we do in life. We lead by letting people over. We lead by letting people cut in front of us. We lead by setting that example. And that's what I want to tell you. I want to tell you, thank you for setting that example of leadership. Thank you for doing what you do. It is amazing. I really appreciate you sharing this space with me. This is an amazing first podcast. We got so many different people that have showed us love. We got Stephen, Robert, LinkedIn user, Gary. Who else we got? We got Hiram. We got Jordan, and many others that I can't see this. For some reason, they won't let me see it, but this is amazing. You're amazing. Where can the good folks in my network reach out to you? Because I'm pretty sure they're like, man, I need to go to her page. I need to get some more of her content. I need to hook up with her, because that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, I need you in my business because you think the same way that I think you lead. And that's one thing that I'm all about, is leading. Where can we find you?
Well, you can definitely find me at just Erika Warfield or Erika Warfield LLC Sales, which is my business page on LinkedIn. If it's just easier for you, you could go to my link tree, which is under Erika Warfield, or even erikawarfield.com. In fact, if you go to erikawarfield.com, if you're struggling in your business, even as a solopreneur, I have a free gift for you there. And you can download a free PDF with a free, I think it's like a 30-minute long video masterclass on the 6 keys to unlocking your best client avatar. So if you're struggling and you're like, why can't I close these deals? You might be talking to the wrong people. So feel free to go to erikawarfield.com. Just scroll down, not even halfway, and you can access that PDF and get the free video that goes with it.
Oh, I love that. And you are a deal closer. I mean, you're working with like 7-figure clients. Like, you know what you're doing. That just don't happen by accident.
We're trying.
I love it. Well, I appreciate you for being on the show. You have a friend in me. If there's ever anything that I can do for you, please let me know. This has been amazing. You got anything else?
No, I'm looking forward to talking to you tomorrow.
Let's do it.
Right.
See, we're jumping on the discovery call because I want to see the magic of Erika Warfield. Thank you. And you all stay tuned. I got a video that I want to show you before we close. Thank you, Eric. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, man, I am so thankful to you, the viewer, the listener, for sticking around and listening to this leader. I learned so much, and that's why I brought this leader on the show. What we're doing is we're bringing leaders on the show that are making a difference in their lives, making a difference in their homes, making a difference in their communities, making a difference in their business. So I hope that we made a difference with you today. Do me a favor. Do me a big favor. It would mean the world to me if you would leave a comment letting us know how we did. Leave us a comment, some feedback, so that we can get better, so that we can keep delivering quality content. And that's what leadership is about, right? Leadership is about us growing and getting better as we go along the way. So this episode hopefully is going to be better, 12 episodes down the road. And I need you to help us with that. So leave us some feedback. Give us your ratings, whether it's a 1-star, whether it's a 5-star. We take it all and we appreciate it. So thank you. And until next week, take care, my friend. Leaders lead.